So I don't usually make these kind of videos for a number of reasons. I like to keep my content quite light-hearted. I like to just kind of put fun on the internet. I don't really like talking about serious stuff in general because, you know, that's not what I like to watch on the internet, so I don't make it on the internet. But I feel like this is kind of important. It affects a lot of people I know, and it might affect some people that you know as well. This video isn't going to be me getting angry, this isn't going to be yelling, this isn't going to be me calling everyone out, because honestly if I do that, it's just going to have stuff on me that I don't really want. So today's just going to be me kind of informing you about what's going on in terms of Tavistock, what's going on in terms of the trans community just in general, because I think it's important and I have some things to just kind of say. So before we start, this is based on an Instagram post that I saw talking about the matter. If you don't know anything about it, I'll link that post in the description. I would go ahead and do like your own research and stuff. It's really important to know all the facts before you say anything. I'm not going to be here for like laying loads of facts to you. I'm just going to be saying what I'm thinking right now. So if you want to actually look up what's going on, I think it's important, especially if you're not trans or if you I just don't really know what's going on and you have trans people in your life. I think it's just quite important to know how this might affect especially younger trans people. But I'll link a bunch of articles and the NHS stuff in the description below. This video is also not going to be very scripted because I literally just saw comments and just put my camera on, so if it's a bit all over the place, I'm very sorry. So if you don't know what Tavistock is basically a gender clinic place for trans people to go to help them transition. It's a lot of gender counselling, talking about like if like your mental state, like how you feel about your body, like, and they basically help you to see what the best path is for you, and that's what they're there for. They're there to talk, and in my opinion they're generally a good service. They've gotten a lot of bad stuff in the past from trans people, saying that they question whether people are trans enough, they ask really inappropriate questions, but this is from my own personal experience. I think sometimes that is necessary to ask when you're dealing with this kind of stuff. I'm going to read out a GIDS letter that this person on Instagram received, and kind of talking about what's going to happen in terms of hormone blockers and that kind of stuff. You may be aware of a High Court ruling on the 1st December 2020 in the case of Bell versus Tavistock. The judgment means that children and young people may be unable to consent to puberty blocking treatment, and that an application to the court may be required for such treatment to continue. So this is basically saying instead of just going through Tavistock to receive hormone blockers, young people are going to have to start going through the court to see if they're eligible enough to get hormone blockers. The reason people have a lot of issues with this is not only are young people who haven't had hormone blockers yet having to wait till they're 16 to get them, people who are still under 16 and already have them may be having to get off them again. I don't know why we're at a point in time still where we think that children don't know who they are, and that they are only influenced by stuff they see on the TV and on like the internet, and that's the only reason they think anything about themselves. I personally don't think that's true. A lot of trans people don't know about anything LGBT+. They just know who they are and they don't feel right. Unfortunately, not a lot of people agree with this. A lot of people think that children can't decide who they are, they don't know who they are, they can only be 16 above to actually know who they are. Some people think 18 above, it needs to be the limit to where things start to happen with trans kids, which doesn't make a lot of sense. If you don't know, hormone blockers, they basically, you know, block your hormones, you know, the things in the title, and they're usually used before a trans kid hits puberty so that they don't get these hormones that they don't want because it doesn't feel right for them to get them. So on the one hand, people think that giving children hormone blockers is irreversible, it's basically the same as a sex change, and it's going to mess with them completely. On the other side, that's not true. Basically, hormone blockers just halt any hormone development that's going on, and that's about it. It is reversible. In fact, it is always said in these Tavistock meetings and always said when you go to any hospital in the UK, I'm going to just choose UCLH as an example, because that's what I'm near. They always say that this is reversible. If you decide to come off them, that is fine, you can do that. And that's the point where people don't understand that. People don't think that's not a thing that happens. Where it is. It's not irreversible. It's not life-threatening. It's not a surgery. It's not injecting a child with hormones that they didn't ask for. It's not forcing anything upon them. It's just stopping something. To also add to that, it's not easy to get hormone blockers. Even when just going through the Tavistock, it wasn't a situation when you went through one meeting and then you were immediately on hormone blockers. A lot of people are, well, one, they're on the waiting list to go to Tavistock for years or months or however long. It's getting longer by the day because people are becoming more comfortable with themselves and being able to come out, because we live in a more progressive society than we used to be. So that list keeps going up. There aren't enough people trained in handling gender, so there's a long waiting list to do and to wait for. Not only that, then when you actually get into Tavistock, you could also be there for a year, more than a year, talking about everything to do with your life, like how you feel about yourself and everything, and essentially it's not easy to just go on hormone blockers. Unfortunately, people don't think that. People don't know. A lot of people who haven't had any experience with Tavistock or don't know really what Tavistock is, or read one article about a child who had surgery that probably isn't true, now believes that is everything. Just a trigger warning, I'm going to show you some comments on that Instagram post of what people put in response to this person talking about the effect that this is going to have on trans kids. Here they are now. And honestly, a lot of it is pretty disgusting, basically. Spreading false facts, thinking they know everything, see the word children and hormone blockers and immediately think the worst. And it's just ignorance. Not necessarily their fault ignorance, but it is ignorance nonetheless. I don't know if half of these are people just trolling, looking for, clout or anything. That's why I've cut off their names and blurred their names, because I'm not giving them that, and because they don't need it. They've already got enough people responding to their comments to, fulfill whatever need they have. But these comments are exactly why I want to make this, just to kind of inform so that people aren't confused about what's going on. This whole thing was caused by one person in particular, who everyone keeps bringing up, who's against children getting hormone blockers, is because one person who got hormone blockers, got hormones and got surgery, regretted all their decisions, and actually they are not trans. One person. And it's because of this one person that a lot of people think that the majority of trans people will inevitably change their mind. Because that's the thing that happens. They immediately see this one thing that happened, that blew up, and it's on the media, it's everywhere, because it is important to talk about, but people see it and go, yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about, see, trans people, they don't know what they're on about, this is why children shouldn't choose. But it's kind of like the case of one person against the case of millions of other people who are happy with all the treatment that they've gotten. Now that I've talked about all that, I'm going to talk about how this is going to affect young trans people. I'm going to try not to use any big violent words, because people seem to latch onto those and think we're overreacting. But if I do, it is because it's pretty true. So having the court order kind of say that you have to be 16 to get any sort of hormone blocker treatment, it kind of defeats the purpose of hormone blockers in general. A lot of parents who are accepting of their children do try to get them hormone blockers before they hit puberty, because they know it's going to have a very big effect on their mental health, because a lot of kids have breakdowns in the idea that they're going to have this puberty that doesn't match with who they are. So that's why we want hormone blockers, and if these young children say they want hormone blockers and they get them, and down the line if they get into high school and they're like, oh wait, actually no, they can come off the hormone blockers. Making these kids go through the puberty that they don't want to does the same thing that these people that are against hormone blockers think that will do to them. It's going to really affect their mental health. It's going to really damage them as an individual, it's not going to do very healthy things to them in general, because it's wrong to them. It doesn't make any sense. It's confusing. Why have they been put in the wrong body. It's hard to argue this case to people who also think that being trans is something you choose to do. A lot of people think that people choose to be trans for attention. People think that you choose to be it just because feel like it. It still baffles people that this isn't something you choose. It's just something that is, and they still believe that it's a mental disorder, that it's something wrong with your brain, that it can be treated with therapy. Much like on the same lines as being gay can be treated with therapy. It's not the case. So if you're watching this and you believe that, I'm sorry, but the rest of these arguments are going to go right over your head. I'd say you need to come to terms with the fact that being trans isn't a choice. You need to educate yourself a bit more before spout on a comment about how you choose to be trans for attention, because it's not. And if anything, we don't want attention. We just want to get on with what our lives are and have this not really affect our lives. So, kind of moving on to people who are already on hormone blockers. If someone has been on hormone blockers for a while and they're under 16, and then say they had hormone blockers before they started puberty, and if they get taken off it and start their puberty again, that's not... It's basically taking away something that, as a trans person, you work so hard to get. You go through so much counselling, you go through so much, yes, I believe this, yes, I think this, no, that's not it. To the point where you can finally get that hormone blocker, and then if the court don't think you're eligible to get it, then you'll eventually be taken off it. And that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. This whole thing is going to be a massive blow to the trans community. It's going to be, especially on the younger people, it's going to be hard for them. They're going to seem like they're not listened to even more than before. They're going to seem invalid because this is basically them saying you can't be sure of who you are until you're 16 or older. And in all honesty, in terms of the parents, it's hard for parents to come to terms with the fact that their child might be trans. So now that there's this extra layer of like having to do something to get onto this hormone blocker, some parents might just be like, it's not worth it, we'll just wait. And I'm worried that the rate of like depression, the rate of self-harm, the rates of suicide are just going to go up even more than they already are in trans kids, because this news to them is going to feel like there's no point. This news to them is going to feel like, why would I just wait this long? I already hate everything about my body, about my gender, about who people think I am. So what's the point in waiting even longer? We're not trying to blow anything out of proportion. If you're not trans, you don't know what it's like. Which is why I say educate yourself. Which is why I say even ask someone, if you know someone who's chill, who with like questions, like a trans person is chill with questions, ask them everything, Like, if you think your question is going to be offensive, try and put it lightly, don't use these explosive words that are just going to blow everything out of proportion yourselves. Hormone blockers are reversible. Hormone blockers are the first step in transitioning, or one of the first steps anyway. Hormone blockers aren't surgery. Hormone blockers aren't a sex change. Hormone blockers aren't sex, which some people believe. So now with this new court order, it's going to be even harder. And the stress on a young person is already huge. So having the court order, having people say that this is a good thing and that children can't decide anything for themselves, it's just going to add to that. And especially in this kind of corona world we're in now, that mental health rates and suicide rates have been an all-time high. So now was probably the worst time for this to even happen. And it shouldn't have happened anyway. And that's my thoughts on it. If you're one of those people who think that this is a good thing, talk to a trans person. Just listen. And if you're a trans person, especially a trans young person who's watching this, it sucks. This is probably one of the worst news you could hear, especially if you were so close to getting hormone blockers, especially if you were on hormone blockers and now you're scared that you're going to get that taken away from you. But there's people looking out for you. Like, you're not alone. It might feel like it now because you've got the world saying that you're invalid and that how you identify is wrong and that you don't know anything, but you do. You know who you are. That's all I really got to say on that matter. Sorry if a lot of this didn't make any sense, or sorry if I kind of went off, or if this is confusing. Like I said, this isn't an educational thing. This is just me addressing you, saying, if you don't know what's going on, and if you're one of those people who think that this isn't a big deal, and if you have trans people in your life, educate yourself. I promise the next video won't be as serious as this one. I'm working on some stuff that will probably be quite fun and lighthearted, that you can distract your mind from these shit times. But that was me. Feel free to put your opinions, questions, anything. I'm not an offended man. If you have any questions at all, please put them in the comment. I will answer them. But yeah. Stay strong out there. I've been Alex Alberto, and I'll see you guys in a new dawn, in a new day.